You know what? I've been keeping pigeons for 15 years now. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that champion birds aren't born. They're made through 1,000 small decisions that most people never think about. I remember standing in my loft at 3 in the morning, watching a young bird that couldn't breathe properly, and realizing I knew nothing about respiratory health. That bird died, and it was my fault. But every mistake taught me something, and today I'm going to share everything. The real stuff, not the textbook theory, but the hard-won knowledge that comes from failing and figuring out why. This is going to be a long conversation because there's so much to cover, and I want you to understand not just what to do, but why you're doing it. Because that's the difference between someone who keeps pigeons and someone who breeds champions. Let's start with genetics, because everyone throws around words like bloodline and strain without understanding what they're actually looking at. I spent years buying birds with fancy pedigrees, names that win races in Belgium, and you know what? Half of them couldn't find their way home from the next town. The paper doesn't fly, the bird does. What matters is what you can see and feel. Take a bird in your hands and spread the wing. Look at those last 3 flight feathers. They need to curve slightly, like a propeller blade, strong but flexible. I test this by gently bending them. If they snap back immediately, you've got quality. If they stay bent or break, you've got garbage regardless of what the pedigree says. The wing structure determines how efficiently the bird moves through air, how much energy it expends for each kilometer flown. A poorly constructed wing means the bird is working harder than competitors for the same speed, and over long distances, that extra effort accumulates into exhaustion and lost time. The muscle structure tells you even more. Feel the breast's long, firm muscles extending well back toward the tail. That's what you want. Short, bulky chest muscles look impressive, but they fade after 2 hours of flying. I learned this the expensive way, selecting birds that look like bodybuilders and wondering why they came home exhausted from middle-distance races. My best hen ever had muscles like a marathon runner, not a sprinter, and she bred winners for 8 years. The muscle fiber type matters enormously. Champion racers have a higher proportion of slow-twitch oxidative fibers that can sustain effort for hours without fatigue. You can't see this with your eyes, but you can feel it in the muscle texture and observe it in how the bird trains. Birds with the right muscle composition can fly for 2 hours without showing distress, while others are panting and struggling after 45 minutes. People argue about eye sign, and honestly, I was skeptical too until I started really looking. It's not about color. Ignore those old books talking about pearl eyes or whatever. It's about clarity, intelligence, that alert awareness when you handle the bird. The pupils should react instantly to light changes. When you've handled enough birds, you start recognizing something in the eyes of the smart ones, the navigators that find home when everything goes wrong. I had this blue bar cock, nothing special to look at, but his eyes were incredibly expressive. Won 3 races in terrible weather because he always found the line home. The eye is the window to the nervous system, and a bird with sharp, responsive eyes has a sharp, responsive brain. That matters when they're hundreds of kilometers from home, tired, facing crosswinds, and need to make split-second navigation decisions. Now pairing. This is where most people fail completely because they think it's random or just about famous names. The old like-to-like saying works sometimes, but the real magic is genetic compensation. I pair based on what each bird lacks. Speed cock with questionable navigation. Pair him to a hen that's maybe slower but finds home from anywhere. You're not trying to make copies, you're trying to make something better. I write everything down, not just results but my reasoning, and after years of notes I started seeing patterns. Some combinations just work, producing consistent quality regardless of which specific birds I pair. The key is understanding that every bird has genetic strengths and weaknesses, and your job as a breeder is to combine them so the strengths complement and the weaknesses are masked or eliminated in the offspring. A Belgian master taught me spiral breeding, and it changed everything. Instead of tight line breeding that fixes faults as easily as virtues, maintain 3 families, call them A, B, and C. Floss A with B, take the best back to C, then those results to new A blood, rotating constantly. You keep hybrid vigor while still concentrating the qualities you want. My birds got healthier, more consistent, and kept that racing intelligence that disappears with too much inbreeding. The key is patience. This takes years to show results, but when it works, it really works. Inbreeding coefficient is something every serious breeder should calculate. I aim to keep my birds below 12.5% inbreeding, which means no closer than grandparent to grandchild matings. This maintains enough genetic diversity for health and vigor, while still allowing you to fix desirable traits. Feeding is where I see the most mistakes, and I made them all. For years I thought more protein meant stronger birds, loaded them with peas and beans, wondered why they were heavy and slow. Then a Dutch pigeon vet explained the metabolic reality. These are endurance athletes, not weightlifters. Their bodies burn fat efficiently over long periods. They don't need massive protein processing. The digestive system of a racing pigeon is designed to handle grains, seeds, and some legumes, but the proportions must match the work being asked of the bird. Too much protein creates excess nitrogen that must be processed by the kidneys, putting unnecessary strain on organs that are already working hard during racing stress. You have to periodize the diet like human athletes. Off-season molting, yes, 18 to 20% protein for feather growth, but training season drops to 14 to 16%, increasing carbohydrates and fats. Racing season is all about energy density, quality maize, but the small hard varieties that keep their digestive systems working. I use safflower and hemp seed, but carefully, they're calorie bombs. The molting period is actually incredibly demanding nutritionally. Birds are growing an entirely new coat of feathers, which requires enormous amounts of protein, sulfur-containing amino acids, and specific minerals like zinc and manganese. Without proper nutrition during molt, you get poor feather quality that affects aerodynamics and insulation for the entire next racing season. Here's my actual schedule that works. Light training days get barley, wheat, minimal maize. Keep them slightly hungry, alert, eager to fly. Day before racing switches to heavy energy mix, but fed in the evening, not morning. Pigeons digest over 12 to 14 hours, so evening feeding means they go to the race fully loaded but with empty, light digestive tracts. I got this timing from studying Belgian preparation methods and saw immediate improvement in my results. The evening feeding also allows the birds to roost with full crops, which seems to improve their mental state and eagerness to return home. Birds that are slightly hungry train harder, respond better to conditioning, and maintain sharper reflexes. Water quality is probably the most overlooked factor. These birds drink constantly, and contaminated water sabotages them daily. I use filtered water always, and I rotate supplements strategically, never everything at once. Mondays might be electrolytes for recovery, midweek apple cider vinegar to acidify the gut and prevent bacterial growth, before racing specific energy support. But the foundation is clean, fresh water. Everything else is just optimization. The average racing pigeon drinks 30 to 50 milliliters per day, more in hot weather or during racing stress. If that water contains chlorine, heavy metals, or bacterial contamination, you're creating chronic low-grade health problems that accumulate over a season. I change water containers daily, scrub them weekly with dilute bleach solution, and rinse thoroughly. Health management separates serious competitors from hobbyists. Racing pigeons are tough but vulnerable to specific diseases that destroy seasons if not managed proactively. Respiratory infections, canker, coccidiosis. I don't wait for symptoms. By the time a bird looks sick, everyone's been exposed. I work with a pigeon specialist vet on a protocol we've developed over years. The economic reality is that treating a sick bird costs more than preventing illness in the entire loft. And one sick bird can infect dozens before you notice visible symptoms. I spend more on prevention than most people spend on treatment, and my veterinary bills are actually lower because of it. Respiratory health is everything. These are flying athletes, working at maximum capacity. Even mild infections reduce performance 20 to 30%, enough to turn winners into also-rans. I maintain strict biosecurity. No visitors during racing season. Dedicated loft shoes and clothes. Regular screening. I use nebulizer treatments before important races not because birds are sick, but to ensure completely clear airways at maximum efficiency. This isn't doping, it's health optimization. The respiratory system of a racing pigeon is extraordinarily efficient. Air flows in one direction through the lungs, creating a continuous oxygen exchange that allows sustained high-altitude flight. But this system is also vulnerable to infection because the air sacs extend throughout the body cavity, meaning respiratory infections can become systemic quickly. Canker is everywhere. Every bird carries trichomoniasis. The question is control versus outbreak. I treat the whole team before racing season starts, then maintain with natural methods: apple cider vinegar, specific probiotics, immune support. Constant medication creates resistant strains and damages liver and kidney function. The holistic approach keeps them healthier long-term. Trichomoniasis is particularly dangerous because it causes lesions in the throat and crop that prevent proper feeding. A bird with advanced canker literally cannot swallow enough food to fuel racing effort, and the organism spreads through shared water and billing between mates. I check throats monthly during racing season, looking for the characteristic yellowish plaques that indicate infection. Supplements. I've tried everything the market sells. Here's what actually works based on blood work I've had done. Omega fatty acids from flaxseed and avian-specific fish oils reduce inflammation, improve feather quality, support cardiovascular health. I add these to feed 3 times weekly during racing season. Branched-chain amino acids help muscle recovery after hard races, used in return water for anything over 300 kilometers. The science behind omega-3 supplementation is solid. It reduces inflammatory cytokines that build up during endurance exercise, improves cell membrane fluidity, which affects nerve function and muscle contraction, and supports the immune system, which is stressed by racing effort. I use cold-pressed flaxseed oil because it's stable and palatable for birds. Electrolytes matter, but not the sugary sports drink types marketed for pigeons. I use veterinary formulations matching natural pigeon blood electrolyte balance. After hard racing, birds are depleted, even when they don't look it. Proper rehydration within 2 hours of return is critical for recovery. Liver support supplements during racing season help enormously. The liver works incredibly hard processing energy metabolites during flight, and supporting it improves recovery time. The metabolic demands of flight are extraordinary. A racing pigeon can increase its metabolic rate by 10 to 15 times during flight, compared to rest. This creates massive amounts of metabolic byproducts that must be processed, and the liver bears the burden. I use milk thistle extract and specific B vitamin complexes to support hepatic function. Probiotics surprised me with their effectiveness. Not yogurt cultures, but avian-specific strains that properly colonize the gut. Racing stress disrupts microbiome balance, and healthy gut means better nutrient absorption, better immunity, and surprisingly better mental state. Birds with healthy guts are calmer, more focused, train better. I start youngsters on probiotics from weaning and maintain throughout their careers. The gut-brain axis is real in birds just as in mammals. Serotonin production, immune modulation, even behavior are influenced by gut health. I noticed that birds on proper probiotic regimens were less stressed during training, adapted faster to new routines, and seemed to recover more quickly from illness. Training methodology is where art meets science, and where champion lofts separate from average ones. Every flight has purpose. Early season builds basic fitness with short tosses in perfect weather. As fitness improves, vary conditions, different winds, different times, different release points. Birds must learn to navigate everything because race day brings surprises. I keep detailed training logs noting wind direction, speed, temperature, humidity, and how the birds performed. Over years, I've learned which conditions suit my birds best and which require extra preparation. Some of my family excel in headwinds, others in crosswinds. Knowing this helps me select teams for specific races. My progression goes like this: loft flying first, minimum 1 hour daily circling home, building wing strength and respiratory capacity. Phase 2 adds short tosses, 10 to 30 kilometers, teaching orientation and quick returns. Phase 3 extends distance while maintaining frequency. Multiple hundreds are better than single long tosses at this stage. Phase 4 simulates race conditions exactly: crate time, transport stress, release timing, everything. The psychological aspect of training is as important as physical. Birds must learn confidence in their navigation ability, must experience success returning home, must build the mental map that allows them to orient from any direction. I never push birds beyond their comfort zone too quickly. Confidence lost is harder to rebuild than fitness. Mental training matters as much as physical. These are intelligent birds needing stimulation. I vary routes, use different release points, train with other fanciers to expose my birds to different flocks. Birds knowing only one route home struggle when races go unexpected directions. I also train fast trapping. Races are won in the seconds entering the loft. My birds know trapping means food, safety, their mate. That motivation gets them through faster than any physical conditioning. The trapping response is conditioned through consistent routine, specific whistle or signal, immediate reward, positive association, built over hundreds of repetitions. I practice trapping daily, not just on race days so it becomes automatic. The secrets champions don't put in books. I've been in great Belgian and Dutch lofts, and I notice patterns nobody discusses. First is ruthless selection. Champion lofts are small. They don't keep 50 breeding pairs. They keep 10 or 15 exceptional ones. Every bird has proven itself or comes from proven stock. No sentimentality. I watched a champion cull a beautiful bird because it didn't produce winners. Brutal, necessary. The math is simple. Every bird you keep that isn't contributing to your breeding goals is taking resources from birds that could feed, space, time, attention, all limited resources that must be allocated to your best genetic material. Second secret is observation. Top fanciers know every bird individually. They notice subtle behavior changes, droppings, eating patterns, sounds. They handle birds daily, building relationships that make birds want to return home. A pigeon trusting its handler, associating human presence with safety, pushes harder to get home. I spend quiet time in the loft, just observing, being present. Birds become accustomed, relaxed, and I catch problems before they become serious. The droppings tell you everything about digestive health, color, consistency, frequency, volume. I know my bird's normal patterns so well that any deviation immediately catches my attention. Third secret is rest. Everyone focuses on training. Champions focus equally on recovery. After hard racing, birds need complete rest. No training, no stress, just quality feed, clean water, peace. I give 2 days complete rest after races over 500 kilometers. Their bodies repair muscle damage, replenish energy stores, mentally process navigation experience. Pushing too hard, too fast, leads to chronic fatigue and poor performance. When important races happen late season, overtraining syndrome is real in pigeons. Elevated cortisol, suppressed immune function, decreased motivation to fly. The signs are subtle at first, slightly longer, to trap, less enthusiasm for training, feathers looking stressed. Motivation management is where champions excel. Pigeons race home for survival instinct and motivation to return to territory, mate, or young. I use widowhood, racing males while mates are home, separated, but visible. The desire to reunite drives incredible performances. But management is delicate. Too much separation, and birds stress, lose condition. Too little, and they lack urgency. I adjust based on individual temperament and race distance. Some need more motivation, some less. Knowing your birds individually is essential. The widowhood system requires precise timing, separation periods, feeding schedules, lighting control, all synchronized to peak motivation on race day. I start preparing birds mentally 2 days before racing, adjusting their environment to build anticipation. The final secret is patience and long-term thinking. Champion lofts aren't built in a season. Best bloodlines take years to develop and perfect. I've been working my current family for 8 years, slowly refining, selecting, improving. Every season teaches something new. Fanciers jumping from strain to strain, always seeking magic bloodlines. Us never develop deep understanding that creates consistent winners. Find good birds, commit to them, learn everything, improve through careful selection and intelligent breeding. The compound effect of small improvements accumulates over time. Better feed this year, better health management next year, better selection in the year after. After a decade, you're operating at a completely different level than when you started. Young bird racing requires different strategies entirely. Youngsters are learning navigation, building mental territory maps, developing physical strength for racing. I focus on frequent short tosses rather than long distances. They need to learn that baskets mean adventure, ending safely home. I never push youngsters beyond 300 kilometers first season. Not about winning young bird races, but developing champions as yearlings and 2-year-olds. Birds pushed too hard young, often burn out, or develop chronic health issues. The skeleton and muscle systems are still developing in young birds, and excessive stress can cause permanent damage. I watch growth plates, muscle development, overall maturity, before deciding which birds to race, and how far. Weaning is critical for future success. I wean gradually, keeping youngsters in sight of parents, but encouraging independence. They must learn eating, drinking, finding place in loft hierarchy, and identifying with new weaned birds, ensuring they're eating and adjusting well. Stress during this period affects health and racing potential for entire lives. The immune system is developing during weaning, and stress suppresses immune function, making birds vulnerable to opportunistic infections that can become chronic. I maintain extra biosecurity during weaning season, and I never wean during extreme weather or when other stressors are present. As I finish this, I want to emphasize something that took years to truly understand. These birds aren't machines, tools for ego, or gambling devices. They're incredible athletes, intelligent navigators, and when treated with respect and understanding, they give everything they have. The bond between fancier and birds is real, built on consistency, care, genuine appreciation for what they accomplish. Every time I open the loft and watch birds spiral upward, catching thermals, training with obvious joy and purpose, I'm reminded why I fell in love with this sport. When they return from 700 kilometers, exhausted but triumphant, having navigated weather and terrain challenging human pilots, I'm in awe of their abilities. Our job is supporting these natural athletes, providing best possible care, training, environment, then trusting them to do what they've been bred for millennia to do. If you're starting out, be patient with yourself and your birds. You'll make mistakes. I certainly did. Learn from them. Find mentors willing to share knowledge, but trust your own observations and experiences. Every loft is different. Every location presents unique challenges, and part of the joy is developing systems working for your specific situation. Keep detailed records. Be honest about failures and successes. Never stop learning. For those already competing, I hope these insights help break through to the next level. The difference between good and great is often in details. Feeding timing, specific supplement choice, feeding patience to rest birds properly, courage to call what doesn't measure up. Champion lofts are built on thousands of small decisions made correctly, consistently, over years. This is Pigeon Man, from the loft. May your birds fly straight, return swift, and may you find the same joy in this magnificent sport that I have. Remember, every champion was once a beginner who refused to give up. Keep learning, keep improving. Most importantly, keep loving these incredible birds. Until next time, good flying.